Hello YouTube, I'm Shane.
And I'm Caden.
He's a little man.
And welcome to the shed.
Working on a Jeep again today. So we've got a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of upgrades, perfect excuse to do some upgrades. Basically this now has 200,000 kilometers on it, whatever that is in miles, I don't know, I'll do the conversion, put it down here somewhere for freedom units. Anyway, it runs timing chains, so they're okay for the moment. But the serpentine belt, I figure, is due to be replaced. Believe it got replaced at about 110, so perfect time to be doing it. Same time as doing it, I'm going to be pulling the crank pulley off and replacing it with this. This is the Unorthodox Racing Lightweight crank pulley. It was made for the Pentastar engines, and it's just a direct replacement for the original crank pulley. Weighs significantly less. Can't remember off the top of my head, but when I get the old one off, I'll throw them on the scales and show them as well. Alright, so let's I'll show you what I've done so far. Alright, so all I've done so far is really just pull the intake off. Obviously it runs along here. I'm not showing that basically because I've got the air rate. It's very different to the standard one, and there's plenty of intakes there. I'm sure with a little bit of knowledge you can work out how to undo a few bolts and take your own intake off. The only thing I'll state is remembering that there is the AIT sensor close to the throttle body, and usually a breather. Anyway, if we get into it, if I can keep out of the light. So there's the stock crankshaft pulley, harmonic balancer, whatever you want to call it, it's solid. So that's that. So I have the new one to replace that. From everything I've seen, bolt comes out and it's a it just slides out. So famous last words. I'll get some penetrating oil on it just to help, and then I'll crack out the ugger-duggers and hopefully be able to pull this off. Oh, the other thing, so we have the tensioner, which is down here. So that is, I can't remember the size of the hole now. I think it's the 3/8 hole. So obviously the belt comes up. Where is it? I can't get the light into it. Hang on. Let's see if I can show the light. So if you can see, that's the pivot point up here, and that's the pulley down there. So you put a breaker bar or something into that, and it needs to turn. It needs to be pushed that way to take the tension off the belt. So I'll take some tension off the belt, try and get this off. To replace the belt as well, you need to remove or at least undo the alternator, but we'll get into that as well. First off, let's try and get this off. Alright, so it was quite awkward to get that. It was probably just me. I got under the car with a breaker bar in there, pushed it off, and then just knocked it off the water pump pulley for the moment. So you can see the belt's just hanging here. I'll just leave it there until I pull the crank pulley off, and then we'll sort out everything else after that. So now to grab the ugger-duggers and get into that. Alright, seems to be really only one position that I can get the rattle gun into that point. And that's kind of had to come down from the top and twist it on. I might have been able to do the same thing from underneath, but there's a bit more room here. And it had to sit on the side basically because a fan shroud hits it otherwise and twists it off. Hopefully I can break it loose with this, and then it should just be a matter of either undoing it, or I can then just get a normal ratchet or something to take it off. So let's give it a try. Alright, well, that was an absolute prick to get off. Impact wasn't enough. I was going at it hard for a while, and it just would not budge. Grabbed the breaker bar. So let's see if I can get that. So I had a breaker bar on with an extension, and it just started, just started moving the car. Oh, that's what I should point out as well. So I've had it in gear, in 6th gear. It's a manual, so in 6th gear, handbrake up, and it was just still overcoming. So I'll show you what I ended up having to do. So I had some concrete bags lying around, so I braced the back wheels even more to stop it. And then what I ended up using was the breaker bar, and it's like a 1.2 meter extension. Luckily, you know, steel bull bar and everything, I could stand on that and grab onto it and just reef it, and it ended up breaking it, well, probably breaking it loose. What I will say is, so it's a, let's put this up the right way, it's a 1 1/16 bolt that's holding it on. And yes, I know that this is a chrome one. I've been using it on an impact socket, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that is now loose. Let's move this stuff out of the way. Climb up my little ladder so you can see down here. So that is now loose. So I'll jump under, take it off, and hopefully this should slide out pretty easily. Famous last words, I'm not going to hold my breath. Alright, that just slides off. Out it comes. Let's see if I can get it out of here. Whew. That came out a lot easier once I got that off than expected. Alrighty, let's throw these on scales. Alright, so I've got the good old garage scales here and stock pulley. I'll just throw that on. Alright, so 2.6 kilos, 2.608 if you want to get really exact. Alright, straight off that, and 357 grams. So yeah, quite a bit of rotational weight saving there. Sorry about the strange angle. I'm just trying to put it on a put the phone on a stand while I put this on. What I'll show you is its key weight. So there's a key in the crank, and this is obviously a key. So that's how this lines up. So I will attempt to get it on now. You can't see the key on this, where it is, so let's give it a try. Let's see if I can feel where that key is actually. Alright, so it's on there now. Sorry, I didn't really film that. It was just so hard with the little stand I've got. Wasn't really, it was just getting in the way. And let's face it, it's putting a bolt in and tightening it up. Tightening for this, for the bolt, is 30 foot-pounds and then 105 degrees rotation. What I've done so far is I've just done it to the 30 foot-pounds, or that's about 40 Newton meters. So yeah, so I've got it to 40 Newton meters. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take out the belt and replace that, and then I will tighten it the full weight on. Alright, so to get the belt off, basically the bracket on, I don't know if you can see it, this bracket is in the way because the belt runs up for the alternator, so it runs up one side of it and then runs back down the other. There's two idlers under here that are really hard to see. So basically what I've got to do is take off, well, let's see if I can point and hold the camera, these two bolts, take them completely out, loosen these two off, and then that'll allow me to move this the alternator out enough that I can get the belt out from under there, and then I'll replace it with the new one. So let's try that now. All right, it's really strange. That bottom one there is a 13 mil. Top one is a 16, and these two 15s. Pretty sure that was right. Yep, 15. So, got a new toy, and I'll give it a try. I'm not sure what was going on there. I didn't hit record or something like that, but that top bolt, God, it was hard. For some reason, I had to get the proper impact out for it. So we'll give this bottom one a try. See if I can get that. Otherwise, might need some more ugga-duggas. Oh, no, that one broke okay. Alright, so what I've done is obviously pulled these screws out basically as far as they can go. I've pulled them like so they'll come right out, then pushed it back in and done them up a few threads. So what I've got to do now is get this underneath and up and over the pulley here. So we'll see how it films, if it actually comes out all good. If not, there'll just be the magic of editing to it being there. So you can see that slides out. And what I'll do now is I won't film this because it's just way too difficult, but I'm going to redo up these bolts, put that in position, loosen the tensioner, pull it over. I'll most likely put it around the crank pulley, and when I loosen the tensioner, then I'll put it over the water pump one, just because it's smooth. It's a bit easier. So I'll make sure that they're all in the ribs properly, and that should be good. All right, everything's on. Bolts torqued down. These I'll make sure they're all good on. Looks like all the pulleys are lined up nicely. Time to start it up. This is always the nerve-wracking part. One, making sure the belt is on right. And two, well, I've just replaced the crank pulley, so hopefully it will work all fine. All right, here it goes. Everything looks to be spinning. Alright, so great success. I started up, worked. Belts haven't flown off. Good start. I jumped back in the car to check. Everything was fine. Saw that there was an engine light on. Had a bit of a panic. Grabbed JScan out, did a scan, and realised it didn't read the intake air temperature sensor because I didn't have it plugged in. So, cleared that code, plugged the intake back on, started it back up, and worked perfectly fine. What I'm going to do now is button everything up. I'll just double check all the belts and everything again, make sure that there is no issues. I'm going to button everything back up. What I'll end up doing is plugging in HP tuners, VCM scanner, and I'm going to reset all the adaptives, and then tonight when I go to work, I'll do a log and see how everything, well, if anything changes, and we'll go from there. All right, quick lap around the block, and engine's still there, hasn't blown up, so that's a good start. Everything worked fine, no strange noises or anything like that. Before the end of this, I'm sure there'll be some random comments about a solid crank pulley compared to a harmonic balancer. My thoughts on that. All right, yes, in the past they did use harmonic balancers as part of the external balancing of the crankshaft and of the engine. Plenty of engines still like that today. They use a harmonic balancer. This has a crank pulley. The idea that there's a harmonics that come between because of the bore and the stroke and everything like that, yep, cool. But it's the same crank pulley that's used on this 3.6 to the 3.2, and without opening up another can of worms, there is a Maserati engine that is based, when I say that, it's the block is generally the same, and then it's sent off to Maserati and a few other things are done, or quite a bit different is done, but that also runs they're all different bores and strokes, and they run solid crank pulleys. Porsche run crank pulleys. They're solid. I believe a lot of Hondas run crank pulleys. So the old school, 350 Chev, 351 Cleveland, all of those things that needed a harmonic dampener, it's not the same as this engine. The idea, you saw how big the difference in weight was, that it's a less rotational mass. You'll see quite often, if you watch people like Richard Holdner or stuff like that, you'll see when he dynos when he dynos engines, they aren't run with accessories. He's done a few that show the parasitic loss that comes from accessories. This is a reduced rotational mass, almost like an accessory load. So there's less inertia going through the front of the engine, which allows more to be transmitted through the gearbox to the rear. How much of a difference this makes? Look, there's data out there for the guys that have been running them, have been running them for years, lots and lots of kilometers in the US. I'm not sure about in Australia. When they were testing it, guys saw up to 10 horsepower difference at the wheels, just from swapping the crank pulley over. Nothing done with the tune, nothing else. I can't remember kind of what track numbers or anything like that people did. Look, this is a Jeep. It's never going to be fast, but I can make it a bit better for what I want it for. The less inertia going through it allows power and torque to be increased throughout the whole rev range, and that's what I'm after. I'm after better efficiency and better, just basically a better area under the curve, whatever you want to call it, through the whole rev range. That's why I've got the Sprintex sitting there waiting to go on, to get more low down torque. Like I said, it's a Jeep. If it was designed to go fast, it wouldn't be made like a brick, but it can be better. So that's how it goes for performance. I'm more than happy to have discussions about this. Drop a comment below. Whatever your opinions are on it, it's all good. So yeah, and I'm sure that those that are completely against it will be able to throw up plenty of topics about how they're bad, just like there are plenty of topics and proof out there that they're fine. Like I said, on this motor, there's guys in the US that have been running them for years, tens of thousands of miles, and haven't had an issue with them. They're not made anymore because they weren't that popular. I'm sure if you contacted Unorthodox Racing and were willing to pay some huge amount of money, you could get some or get one. But they, long story short, throughout the Pentastar V6 Performance page, they were trying to do a group buy, and it just kept on falling to the wayside. I grabbed one while I could because I knew that there weren't going to be any more. But anyway, it's finally fitted. I think that's enough for my rambling. I will, like I said, I'll do some logging, throw up some data, or at least, have some data for myself. The next thing as far as getting this tuned in is throwing the wideband O2 sensor into the exhaust so I can actually dial in the fueling. So my plan is throw that in, relog. This has got variable valve timing, so basically set the valve timing at a standard rate the whole way. Get the fueling and spark dialed in, change it, change the valve timing, do it again, run through that for both exhaust and intake. Basically, I think each one moves 60 degrees. Each one has a 60-degree rotation, so basically trying to go through, do as many combinations as I can with that. Get that essentially dialed in on the street. Take it to a dyno and dyno those final ones and find out where those crossover points are of what is the most ideal cam angles to be running across the whole rev range. Once I've done that, got it dialed in nicely, then I'll look at putting a supercharger on and going down that path. But anyway, I'm sure that's enough rambling for me. This is working fine for the moment. Hopefully it continues. So anyway, catch you later.